Hello everybody, I'm Kieran Killeen from Marketing Network, and it's fantastic. I can tell everybody now who I know that I've sold out the RDS because the room is completely full. People finding it a tough market out there at present, I would think. I'm going to give you, I suppose, a bit of a layman's view from a marketing perspective on how to get a job in marketing. I suppose that the first thing is that it's all about timing and trying to find out when is the best time to actually approach a particular employer with regard to a position that they might have. But one thing that fascinated me recently when having a chat with somebody who had just finished their degree course, they said to me, my dad has told me that he can help me get a couple of interviews with some different companies and hopefully get a placement. But I don't want to do that because I don't want people to think that my dad gave me a leg up in trying to get a job. And I thought that was a really profound thing to say on a couple of fronts. One is, if anybody out there is offering you any opportunity to get yourself onto the career ladder, take it. Don't be apologising to your friends or anybody else for how you got that job. Just go and do it. And I'm not sure if that's a common held view, that I want to do this for myself. I don't want somebody else to help me to get the position. My words back to him were, you know, an employer might take you on as a favour to your father, but they'll dump you fairly quickly if you can't do the job. So take every opportunity that you can that's there. I guess I've been in the marketing business for the best part of 30 years, and that has brought me into contact with hundreds of people through the agency that I run. No doubt I have hired hundreds of people during that time, and I guess I probably fired a big bunch of people during that time as well. And I thought I'd try and really come at this from that perspective, that there's a couple of different things that an employer is looking for, particularly at that first stage of interview. There is no magic formula, obviously, connected to how to get a job in marketing. If there was, then everybody would be following the same formula. So I think everybody has to be unique in how they might approach this. One of the things that is talked about significantly in the world of marketing is differentiation. And that specifically relates primarily to brand marketing, but it also relates to people. And I think how you differentiate yourselves when you walk into a room for interview at that stage, or even how you differentiate yourselves at the point of getting your CV together, is a fairly fundamental requirement. Because lots of the brands up here compete in the same sectors. You know, you've deliberately Mars and Cadbury's and Coke and Pepsi up there. They're still differentiating what they're doing by how they are positioning themselves. So use that yourself. Celebrities are very much these days differentiating themselves from other celebrities through what they're doing with their social media activity and so on. So don't let that stop you from creating the unique personality around you as the potential employee, because you do have to stand out from the crowd. You know, typically now, for every time I put a job on jobs.ie, for instance, I'm getting 40, 50, 60 CVs. So the first stage of that is about culling those CVs, because I'm not going to interview 40 or 50 people. So who am I going to interview? And I think that's the important bit that's got to come through here. The checklist is very definitely a minimum third level degree. And that's unfortunate, because a lot of the greatest marketers in the world didn't even go to secondary school. The Richard Bransons of this world, you know, they never finished their academic education. But unfortunately, that today is a mandatory requirement. I know some of you probably heard some of the global brands, global brand companies talk today. They're now insisting on a master's qualification. That's not necessarily the same for all companies. I think as you go back down into the SME sector, people are happy with a minimum third level degree. But ultimately, as regards differentiating yourself, it's about your ability to show some serious desire to work in marketing. So what passion do you bring to that field, and what do you believe that you have that will make you stand out from the other people who are in the room? Because you're all now in competition with each other. Trying to wrap all that up, you got to show that you've got a passion for understanding the consumer. And that to me is about curiosity, and curiosity is the most important word in the world of marketing. Those who are most curious tend to be the ones who go and find a great career in the world of marketing. So you got to really be curious about, why do people behave in certain ways? So being curious and passionate about how the consumer behaves is fundamentally important to you. Can you as an individual demonstrate insights into the changing consumer market? Because there's constant shifts in the consumer market right now. So what can you bring to the party? I've had a debate with, again, a recent graduate in the last couple of weeks who said to me, the banks are really poor at engaging in social media because they don't know what it is. I mean, that's a really bizarre, bland statement to make. The banks aren't engaging in social media because they've chosen not to engage in social media. They do know what it's about, and they've run their critiques internally to see should they or shouldn't they. But you, of all people right now, have a real solid understanding, I would think, of what is happening in the world of social media, and that's where a huge amount of the consumer market is shifting right now. So what can you bring at an interview level to demonstrate your comprehension and your understanding as to what's happening in that area? What's your ability like to market yourself? And you need to think about that. You know, how are you going to appear at the interview? What are you going to look like at the interview? And how are you going to communicate at the interview? And can you present yourself well? And that's from a look, from a presence, and it's all about presence. So, you know, one of the things that we would talk about, and I'll talk about in here, is wilting violets. Nobody who's interviewing anybody wants to see a wilting violet in the room. So somebody who cannot express themselves and who you feel is going to shy away from any level of confrontation. So you need to be able to articulate yourself effectively and communicate the points that you want to make efficiently. When you are going for interview, you need to make sure that you have conducted research on that company in advance. Again, you know, Marketing Network has been in business since 1986, and the amount of people who come in for interview, and I say, so what do you know about Marketing Network? They say, not a lot really. And that's just not good enough anymore. You know, you need to not only have drilled the website, but gone to try to find people who used to work there, people who do still work there, and do as much intelligence as you can on the organisation. Because if you don't show interest at that level and show some curiosity at that level, it's never going to carry through into your job performance. And then, can you sell your passion? So again, at interview, an interviewer doesn't want to hear you not expressing passion about what you want to do. So that means you need to turn into an actor or an actress for a short period of time and be absolutely demonstrative about what it is exactly you want to do within the organisation. Again, going back to the whole interview bit, in the larger companies you're going to be faced with a HR person. In the SMEs you're not. You're probably going to be faced with the CEO at a final stage of interview. So you're not necessarily going through as rigorous a process at this level as you are if you're dealing with the HR person, who might never allow you to get in front of the CEO of the company. But if you do get in front of the CEO of the company, that person is interested in buying you for who you are and for what you know. So therefore it's not just about what you've achieved academically at that point, because that's given as a you've got your degree or you've got your master's. But the all-important first impression is significant, and that's a nice line. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. So when you do get in that door to interview, as I said, no shrinking violets. Be as expressive as you can. Don't sit back in the chair. Be very open with the person who you're talking to, and make sure that the hand gestures are right. So don't sit with your arms crossed, because you've got to be open in how you're actually expressing yourself. Interviewers absolutely despise people who are inarticulate and cannot make a point. The all-important introduction. Again, you know, if you've got that, and this sounds obvious, if you've got poor posture and you've got a poor handshake, that's immediately, you know, in the wilting violet area of this person isn't very confident in what they're doing. I'm not saying you have to break the person's hand, but you do need to be expressive with regard to how you're introducing yourself. And you've got to show some decent level of excitement about the company that you're joining, or that you're hoping to join. Because if you don't show it at the interview, they're not going to believe you're going to show it thereafter. How are we dressing for the interview? Again, a very obvious statement, and it very much depends on the company that you're going to meet. So therefore, that's why I'm saying do the bit of research on who the company is, what's the culture like within that company before you go. In certain companies, you know, jeans and t-shirts are fine, in others they're not. And I know myself from doing presentations to various clients, there are certain client companies that I know I have to wear a tie into. So the older the company, the more traditional it typically is, and the more conservative it is. The newer companies less so. So no Hawaiian shirts, unless you're going to a digital agency, and you'll be okay. And incredibly, lots of people who come in for interview don't turn up on time. Because either, I didn't quite know where you were, or I couldn't get parking, or the DART was late, or I thought the Lewis stop was near you. Bizarre. You know, you're trying to make a first impression with somebody and you don't turn up on time. So these are very basic checklists. What am I as an employer looking for during that interview? And I tried to break this into a couple of different stages. The first is the fishing stage, as I would call it. So I'm trying to get an understanding during that initial dialogue, so the first 5 or 10 minutes of the interview, as to what I believe your presentation skills are like. Because someday very soon after you join the company, you're going to have to stand in front of a client or a group of clients, and you're going to have to present some form of recommendations to them. So is what you say, is it believable, and would I buy it off you? So I'm trying to get that out of you during the early part of a conversation that's taking place. So the more open again and expressive that you can be, and the more confident you can be, the better. Because I want salespeople, and everybody in marketing wants salespeople. What level of conversation skills do you have? So when I ask you, how are things, I don't want you to say fine. When I ask you, what have you been doing over the last few months, I don't want you to say this and that. I want you to open up and engage me in a conversation and engage me in some level of dialogue. So what is your ability to connect with me or with the person you're interviewing? And that some of this is posture, some of this is looking you in the eye, and some of this is asking me questions back. So you tell me about how you started the agency, tell me about the people who work here. So getting engaged in the dialogue so you're connecting with me, and then the interviewer becomes a little bit more open with you. So feel free to have that dialogue in both directions. And I keep using this word passion. And I've been reading a book called Inside Apple of late, having already read the Steve Jobs biography. And this Inside Apple is a little bit more cutting with regard to the company, and basically it says Apple is a horrible place to work. But the overriding message that comes through with regard to how Steve Jobs wanted Apple to be run was intensity. So everybody had to be intensive in what they were doing. And that intensity is important during the interview as well, where you're very focused on what you're talking about and that you show some passion about the marketing industry. That's sort of the first bit. Then I'm nerding around trying to find out what level of relevant experience you might have. Now you might say, well, I haven't worked before, so therefore I don't have any relevant experience. I'm interested in what you've ever done as regards communicating and connecting with people. So if that's, you were on a school sports team or a university team, or you were in the debating society, or you led something, or you did some charity work, or whatever it might be, that's all important, because that's about engagement with other people. And showing how you have engaged with other people is significant to me. Also, in something that's overlooked, and sometimes a lot of people sneer at the world of retail, I talked about marketers being curious. And they are curious, but marketers who've worked in a consumer-facing environment also typically have a very good understanding as to how consumers behave. So if you worked in a pub, if you worked in a shop, whatever it might be, it means you're used to dealing with the public, and you're used to dealing with inquiries, and you're used to looking after people. So get all of that in there, and if you do have an opportunity to work even at minimum wage in the retail environment, take it, because it'll seriously move you up in terms of your comprehension as to what people want and getting that whole understanding out there. But make sure that you do bring that up at any opportunity you can. And then, as I said, the company research. Do you know who we are? Do you know what we're trying to do? Do you know who our clients are? Do you know what the culture is like? Do you know what the company has achieved over the years? What are the highlights? What are the lowlights? And do as much digging as you can in that. And there's just so many resources now available to find data like that. Don't leave it out. And then at the interview, I'm trying to get a bit of a handle on, okay, where do I see this person going, and what potential do I think they have? So I'm further exploring here into, do I think this person has the ability to network? And again, talk about the networking bit. If you're on Facebook, how many friends do you have? If you're on LinkedIn, how many people are you connected to? Who do you know that might be able to help me through you? I know the guy who owns this, I know the guy who runs that, my brother is involved in this. That all helps, because that's all about the networking bit and the positive dialogue of, I'm not just here to do marketing, I'm here to help make money for the company, because that's what obviously it's about. And the same way, do I think that you have an ability to build relationships internally and externally? So are you going to get on with, do I think you're going to get on with the people who work in the company? Do you fit with the culture that we have? I'm picturing in my head clients that I'm going to be putting you in front of. Do I think that client will think you're serious? Do I think that client will think you're confident? Do I think that that client will think that you're believable? So all of that stuff becomes important as regards your potential to build relationships. And then I'm trying to think, what level of expectation do you have? I mean, that horrible question of where do you see yourself in 5 years' time, it's a bit of a naff-out question to ask. I think interviewers do it really just to unsettle people. I'm not thinking that. I'm thinking more, this person definitely I have high expectation of this person, or I have no expectation of this person. So again, how you project yourself as to whether I think you are going to be a mover and shaker in the long term becomes important to me. An easy way to get a job in marketing. Someone in this room is a previous winner of the Marketing Network Marketing Student of the Year competition. This is a competition that we've been running for the last 13 years. And we go out to all of the colleges and universities in the country that run any form of marketing degree program. And we engage with all of them, and we provide them with collateral, and we say, please encourage your students to enter. Closing date is typically in early May, and anybody who has produced any paper which is 2,500 words or more is entitled to participate. So we're not setting the subject, we're not setting the content, we're saying anything you've presented in the last 2.5 years. The winner gets a 3-month paid internship. Some winners don't take that. They do get to present to a very high caliber of judges. So the judges who were in the room just gone were Kieran Rumley, who's the head of Love Irish Food in Ireland, Bobby Kerr, who you probably know through Dragon's Den, Martine Pryor, who's the head of Cool Milk in Ireland, which is an educational project that goes through schools to encourage kids to drink milk. Automatically coming out of that are job opportunities, because not only do you get to say I was a participant or I was a finalist in the Marketing Student of the Year award. If you can say you won it, then great. But typically the judges on the day hire the finalists. My view is students are lazy and aren't prepared to participate in stuff like this because it's a little bit off agenda and you're all too busy anyway doing the work that you have to do. And that's the reason why we don't ask you to present something unique. We ask you to present something that you've already done. We get entry levels as low as 30 for this competition, and yet it's heavily marketed. I go out around the colleges and universities to talk about it if I'm invited to, and it's a real unique opportunity to go and really move yourself up a significant number of levels early on. So any unique paper from 2,500 words are up. Now, I hired somebody last week, so I said to her, how did you get the job? Can you tell me how you went about it and what did you do? So she's come in as a marketing executive into the agency. So she said when she finished her degree program in Limerick, she said, what next? What am I going to do now? And she said her ultimate thought was, well, I just get my CV out there and email it all over the place and somebody's bound to hire me. But of course that doesn't happen because the timing may have been wrong, or she may have been applying to the wrong places, or her CV may not have been good enough. So she felt she needed to go and get some more experience with live projects to try and get a better understanding of what public relations was about, marketing communications was about, event management and consumer insight. So she went back to do a master's to help her to move on to the next level. And then she sought to build her experience around the same time as she was doing that, through doing an internship, through doing some charity work. Again, that would give her the opportunity, she felt, to go out and network with people, give something back to society, and at the same time get some real easy experience in a charitable organisation. And she also did some work experience. She also felt that the 5 years retail experience that she did at the weekends working in Boots Chemist was significant. And isn't it interesting that I said I like people who have retail experience? Maybe that's why I hired her. But she had a very solid understanding as to what was going on in how the consumer thinks and how the consumer is behaving, how the consumer is looking for value, where the consumer is shopping, all of that side of it. So that was important as well. And she had done her Erasmus and her international study abroad, which again lots of people will have done. But she also followed a lot of industry trends, so she spent time to make sure she understood what was happening, not just in social media, but also in some of the key platforms, particularly the likes of TED, where there's lots of new innovations and revelations being made. So at interview, she was able to talk about all this stuff and show some curiosity and present some dialogue regarding each of them. But I talked there about the visually appealing and interesting CD, and if you want to work in the world of marketing, you don't just have to send in the Word document CV. There are examples of a couple of CVs. I didn't receive them, but I thought they were interesting, because I would definitely say I want to go and meet those people because they've presented a CV in a very different and a very radical way. Again, if you're applying to work in a financial services company, they are unlikely to put you top of their list. But if you're trying to get into a marketing department or into the agency side, they're the sort of things that will appeal to somebody. They say, out of interest, I need to go and meet these people. Had the same debate actually regarding ad agency names, and there's a great thing that Ad Age have done recently. It's the 40 most bizarre agency names, which are all in the UK, and the one that I think topped the list was called Wexley School for Girls. That's the name of an ad agency. And they were asked where did they come up with the name, and they said, well, we were flicking through the phone book and came up with the name Wesley. And then somebody in the room thought we said Wexley, and we thought that sounded even better, and then we added on School for Girls just because we thought that was interesting. And they're getting on every pitch list right now in the UK because people go, who are these guys? That's just a fascinating name. I want to see them, I want to meet them, I want to know what they're about. But that reinforces that point about differentiation. I'm not saying you need to change your name to Wexley School for Girls, but you can see how the standout from these CVs is in the same area where an employer will say, this person looks interesting, I want to meet them. Now, if you go in and you don't actually follow through on that, and you come in like a wilting violet, you're goners, they know that you just made it up. So that's my lot, ladies and gentlemen. So good luck in the future that lies ahead for you.